Alright guys, so this is the engine that came with our 67 Bug. It's not the original engine though. It is a dual port engine and it's supposedly a 1600 cc engine, but the normal serial number that shows up right here is not here. Looks like there was a metal tag at one point, but there's a metal tag directly on top of the engine. So this is what I believe it's the engine rebuilder tag looks like on the engine. This is the only identification on the engine. The only other thing is the casting itself. The casting right here, you can also see it says AS41. That appears that it was from some sort of engine rebuilder. So there's really no telling what's inside this engine, or exactly even what displacement it is. It could be bigger. So kind of exciting. The only thing we know is that it is locked up. I've worked on a lot of engines, but I've not worked on an air-cooled Volkswagen. So it's also interesting because I've always wanted to work on one. So I'm going to start pulling some stuff off. Let's see here. I'm going to get this out of the way. So this is Micah. This is the distributor cap where the spark plugs get their electricity from. We're going to take this stuff off so we can get the cylinders off. Here's a Phillips. Can you get under there? Can you undo these? Gotta get these metal shrouds off. This might just have to be cut off. Boy, these shrouds have definitely seen better days, I think. Rusted bolt into a rusted nut. These are gonna just be like cut off. I don't know how people get this one. I don't know that a wrench will really do it. I might have steered you wrong there. I don't know if we actually needed to take all of that apart, but oh well. Probably should if we're putting it back together anyways. Alright, you can throw that on the bench. This has to come off. And we won't be saving this. This will be garbage. I'll have to buy a new engine shroud. I got it. We'll save the pieces for a while just so we know what we need. Oh, these aren't loose yet. Oh, actually, take the whole thing. This is an air-cooled engine, so all this metal keeps the air blowing across the engine. It cools it down. That's why you have to have all this metal shroud on it.
I hate that hole because that's the hole that smashed my finger.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, the day we got it.
These are the valve covers. I'm going to pop this one loose. You get to see in here. Ooh, that's not great.
Yeah.
Definitely had some rust in there.
That looks very decent.
This would be the, let's see, the right, well, whatever, passenger side of the engine. Definitely had some water in there. Not great. Rust.
Lots and lots.
Not really sure what that means as far as whether we can reuse any of these components. So let's go look at the other side.
Hey, that's really nice. A lot nicer than the other side.
Well, this side
is really shiny.
It's shiny. No water on this side. You can see the other side of the engine here. I mean, it's pretty clean looking. No water on this side.
Not a speck of rust.
Yeah, looks pretty good. This was stored in the weather at one point, but the person we got it from had it inside a shed. So the next thing to take off is the head. These bolts right here.
And where?
This part is called the head. This is the cylinder. And this is the head. That's the oil dipstick. That's how you check the oil level. I probably should have lubricated all these. They're nice and rusty. I think I have to take these rockers out. So this is called a rocker. They rock back and forth. All right, we're trying to get this rocker assembly off here so we can get to the rest of the head nuts. I'm going to remember where all this stuff goes. Some of this hardware, I might get new hardware anyways when I decide what we're going to do with the engine.
Yeah, I mean, we could have just made a new engine.
I don't think I can make an engine. We can rebuild one, make it better, but I think we can build one from nothing.
Oh, we could just buy an engine.
Well, yeah, we could buy an engine. But this is actually a good engine block, hopefully. It's got a couple studs that are coming out, and one that came out with its case saver. So I don't know what that means, because we're going to have to take this nut off the stud. There it goes. Well, got to make sure everything is actually loose. I'm going to take these out. I don't want to hurt the fins on here. If you pry against these fins, they could break. So
Pry against what?
these little fins. Hit against things that can't break, like right here maybe. Nope, it's moving. No, you can be closer, you just can't be right there. Okay.
Oh yeah, I know what those are. They go
Bunch of
up
hardware.
and down, up and down. Oil,
Pretty nasty oil that's coming out of this thing.
greenish.
Green
tan.
and red. I have no idea. Maybe that's the rust. I'm not sure. Someone could have put ATF in it.
What's ATF?
Automatic transmission fluid. All right, just about got this side loose. The cylinder's coming with this one right here.
What?
Look at that.
Whoa!
Well, this is definitely why the engine wouldn't turn over. This cylinder,
Look at this.
full of rust.
Look at this.
All right, this is not so good. Looks like this cylinder was like just filled with water. All the other cylinders look pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, except a couple grasshoppers.
I don't know. I think someone must have left this engine with the spark plug off to get that much water in it. This side of the engine's not too bad. Everything would have ran if it looked like this. Now, hopefully there wasn't so much water in here that it ran down into the crankcase.
Really big.
Measuring about 3.365. Let's see what that is in millimeters here. 85.5 millimeters. So that should be stock size. You know, we might as well try to get this cylinder off though, so we can see inside the crankcase. I don't know that we will though. It's so badly rusted. Okay, we can pull it all down.
Hey, you know those rings we were talking about? No rings, eyes?
It's a VW part. Yeah, these cylinders really aren't that worn. Of course, the bottom side where the piston skirt rides, like there's still cross hatches down here. But for this engine, probably was a good running engine before someone let water in it.
Or you just put it.
I don't think I can get it out because it'll.
It's already out.
No, the pin. It's called the wrist pin that holds the piston to the. It's called the connecting
I
rod.
don't see any pin in this.
There's a hollow pin. To get it out, I'd have to rotate the engine to get this piston higher. You getting it? Yeah. All right, Mike is trying to get this stud out. This is the rusty cylinder. Not quite sure how to get the cylinder off.
You smash it.
Micah thinks we just smash it, but we want to save this engine case though, Micah, so. All right, we've got this engine stripped down pretty far. Okay, this is the oil pump. So I want to protect this cover. I need to keep this safe. Although honestly, we're probably going to put a different oil pump on it. This is called a gear pump. This is what pumps the oil through the engine.
I'll get that out. I have this under.
I'm gonna hit right here. I get it.
Well, that just broke the stick.
The last thing holding this engine, keeping the case from splitting in half, is this oil pump housing. Not entirely sure how to get it off. We've been prying on it. I don't want to hurt the case. After that,
If you know, tell us.
yeah, we'll go to Google. Google knows everything. And then this bench, look at that. Got piles of parts everywhere, tools, it's a mess. We're gonna have to get a container and a start sorting stuff so we can get this engine case on the bench. So
I'm not gonna be here when you clean up.
you won't be here. You're not going to help clean?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, well, that's okay. Yeah, and then we'll get this case open and see what it's like inside. Hopefully at least the engine case is good. I'm not sure if the crank is good. They're
I
definitely...
see a lot of shininess.
Yeah, it's good. All right, guys, so we got this thing pretty much all stripped down except for this oil pump housing.
Do you know how to do this?
I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't know if I have to use heat, but that's stuck. And then once that's off, I think we should be able to split the engine case. But of course, before we do that, we'll get this engine off the stand and on the bench. My bench is a total disaster right now. I got piled with parts, so I'm gonna have to clean my bench up, and then we'll get back to this another night when we actually split the case open and see what the inside looks like. All right, guys, I'm back out here in the shop tonight, trying to get this engine apart. My workbench all cleaned up, got the engine on the workbench, and need to split the case here and see what's inside. I'm kind of anxious to see what's inside after seeing that rust in the that one cylinder. So really hoping that there's not too much rust inside here and that the crankshaft and the camshaft is reusable. Gotta get the flywheel off. Just assuming that this is a right-hand thread nut on the flywheel, but maybe I should look that up. All right, so I just looked up. This is a right-hand thread, so I am going the right direction, but boy, it's kind of tight. Interesting. Not really sure how to hold this engine still. All right, so I had trouble holding the flywheel still. So I went ahead and I put, I made this little bracket right here, and then I welded it to this little section of tube. And I clamped it down, and so I'm going to go ahead and get my breaker bar on here and then see if it works. All right, so I got my bracket here, got my breaker bar. Let's see if this thing will hold. Look at that. It works. Well, that's definitely the way to do it. I'm gonna have to definitely save this bracket I made. Guys, here's my bracket. Just a little chunk of channel iron. Drilled 2 holes that pick up 2 of the flywheel holes, and it sits at the right level, so where this is sitting on the bench, and rotate the flywheel around, get 2 of the bolts right here. So clamp it down, and yeah, I'll definitely be using this again. All right, so I got this, I guess it's called a gland nut off. Kind of a bolt and a nut all in one, I guess. So let's see here if this flywheel comes off. Yeah, it's wiggling. Ooh, there it goes. I assume I'll replace this flywheel with a new one. Cost of getting things machined these days, I don't know that it's even cheaper. Boy, I've never worked on an old air-cooled Volkswagen, and it's interesting the way things are sealed. The flywheel is sealed to an oil seal, and then there's a gasket between the flywheel and the crank. All right, well, start popping these bolts loose. Definitely not reusing this oil pump, but I don't want to hurt the case. Do need to measure this oil pump though to figure out what it is. I know there's multiple different ones. So. All right, guys, so I wasn't thinking that I have to get the pistons off before I can split the case, but you definitely do. All right, got the engine on the bench, and we are going to pull the piston, there's pins, so we can get the pistons off and we get the case apart. So let's see here. We can ratchet that, and I'll hold this in place. Hold on. I got to hold this nut on this side. So you know what? That thing's just going to spin. We're going to have to try to hold this somehow. I need 2 more nuts that I can put on this. So now I will hold this, I think. Nope. I think the pin is free, so if we just loosen this nut, fine tune this tool. Ooh, just like that. Okay, so I'll do it again to this one. Okay, I think we're ready to pull this engine case off. So no, we're not gonna do that. These surfaces are soft, it's like aluminum, and they're really important to not scratch them because that's what seals the engine. I think I'm getting it. Okay, I think it's coming. Oh, it's like that. Oh.
Wow, a lot of things. Ooh, shiny. Is that a good sign that it's mostly shiny?
Well, there's a lot of different things we have to look at and measure. That might be okay. So these are the lifters.
Okay, those definitely.
These, you would normally want to keep track of where they went, in what order, and put them exactly back where they came from. But we're probably just going to install new ones. But I have to say, I don't know that they're worn out. Okay, so this is the camshaft. This is what I was, like, for the sake of like saving money and not having to spend tons of money on it.
That's the crankshaft?
I was hoping, this is the camshaft. I was hoping that this was reusable.
And it is?
I don't actually see any rust on it, which is good. The other thing, though, you have to make sure that it's not too worn down. So these are the lifters. These ride right here. And this thing spins around and around. See this little bump? It's called a lobe. Every time it goes over the lobe, it moves this up and down.
The cylinders?
Well, the crankshaft has a gear, and it drives this gear, and then this thing spins. And then the valves go up and down. The valves and the cylinder heads. That's how the air comes in, and the exhaust goes out. So, there's marks. They start getting marks and flat spots on them if they get worn down too far. So I'll have to look at this a little closer, clean some of the grease off. But there's no rust. No rust on these are the journals where the bearings ride. So it's possibly reusable. There's 8 lifters, 4 on each side. The ones on this side, there's a tool to keep them from falling. And we'll have to buy that tool when we put this back together. Okay, I think this is ready to come out. Oh, no, we have to take the pistons off the other side. We probably should have done that first because now we've got this awkward open engine. Okay, let me take these lifters out.
I was wondering why.
There we go. Oh. This is the one that won't move. It's kind of rusted, I think. It's not good. Okay, I'm going to take this rod apart. It's called a connecting rod. So we're going to need a socket, I think. So something that's tight like this, you want to use the box end. This is the open end. You could strip it. Be careful not to nick anything on like all these surfaces. If we're using the crankshaft, get nicked. Oh, wow, that's tight.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Doesn't that hurt?
No, I'm not hitting myself. You also need to keep track of where these rods are going if you're reusing them. Bolt doesn't want to come out. You don't ever want to hit that with another piece of steel. It'll damage it. But if you have a softer metal,
Like aluminum?
or brass, piece of brass. Oh, okay, let me move. Yeah, that looks so hot.
This one isn't coming up.
It's rusted.
Would you use a pry bar?
Well, so you normally have to be very careful you don't scratch these surfaces. There we go. It came apart. Wow, that's not good. So this crankshaft.
Yeah, there's metal in it.
Yeah, there's metal. See?
It got so hot.
They might have lost oil pressure or something and started gouging this bearing, sort of loading up that bearing into that hole.
Look at all that.
Hey, look at that. This is
Yeah,
bearing.
but look at all the that.
Well, there's supposed to be a hole in there. That's where the oil's supposed to come out. Oil gets pumped through this crankshaft to lubricate everything. So that is not so great looking. So the only way you could possibly use this crankshaft again is if you had it reground, and they grind it smaller, and then you use thicker bearing, oversized bearing. If it's already undersized, I'm not sure that it can be reground. These are pretty accurate. I have one tool, it's called a micrometer, that's even more accurate than this. Aluminum or bearing material built up on it, so it might be hard to get an accurate reading. But so this is, you read the numbers down here first, and then you read the dial. So this is 2.155. The big numbers, and then the little numbers, and then the dial. Let's see. I don't have my book out here. Let me look it up online. 2.165. So let's see. This might be an undersized crank already. 2.151 maybe. So it's 15 thousandths undersized. This is how much 15 thousandths is. See the tiny cap? That's how much smaller this crankshaft is. They put it on a machine, they grind it smaller to recondition it so you can reuse it. So this crankshaft may not be usable. It's already been ground once. Okay, so we're going to put this back on like this. Whenever you tighten these case nuts down, you want to do it evenly. There's a certain pattern that you're supposed to follow. The other thing to check for is that the case is not warped. You do this, and then you pop it out, put it in here like this, rub it back and forth till it gets centered. See? And you tighten it, and then you can check the dimension. 2.606. Standard case bore, 2.559. 46 thousandths oversized? Really? So I think this has been bored 40 thousandths over already, which I'm not sure if that means the case can still be used or not. Camshaft bore 1.082 maybe. What is the camshaft supposed to be? 1.082. So the camshaft is stock size. Camshaft has not been overbored. All right, guys, we're back here in the shop. We've got this engine torn down pretty far, but there's a couple things left to tear down. Crankshaft here, we need to take the rest of the rods off and then press the distributor and cam gear off the end here. Let's see, what's left? The cylinder heads, we'll show them in a little bit. We still need to disassemble those, take the valves out. And then once we do that, everything will be completely disassembled and we'll be able to inspect everything. We already took this crankcase half, of course, apart and then cleaned it and put it back together. I torqued these so I could measure the bores inside here, and I'm not really sure what to do. Currently, this engine case is bored oversized by 40 thousandths already. Some people bore them 60 and even 80 over. Most people only recommend boring these engine cases 60 over. We have one local air-cooled Volkswagen shop around here, and he won't bore any cases over 40 over, just for reliability and warranty purposes. So I'm not really sure what to do with this. For now, I'm going to go ahead and get this engine case off the bench, and then we'll get started on this crankshaft. All right, what do we need? Like a socket to fit on that nut right there. All right, here it is, 14 millimeter.
Torquing.
I'm going to break them loose, and then you can finish taking them apart while I get a couple other things together. I'm going to go ahead and get my bearing separator and go ahead and get ready to take all this off. Like it's going to finish taking all the rods off, and then we can inspect this thing. I don't really have some V blocks, but I could probably make some out of wood just so I can see how straight this thing is with a dial indicator, see if it's warped. All right, we're going to go ahead and get this bearing separator tightened down a little bit. If we tighten it too tight, we'll damage the crank. So we don't want to do that. I'm hoping that it's a good core that we can exchange for another.
Because we could still use this.
Well, maybe, but the core is called a core exchange. They take this and then they regrind it a little bit smaller. So there's a clip right here. We got to take this clip off. Can you kind of steady this with your hand so it doesn't fall over? There we go. Oh, these can go flying, so. Whew, there it is. So we'll take this over to the shot press, press this off. All right, so we support the bearing separator with these plates.
How in the world
Like this.
would you press it?
See, like this.
Well, then where is it going to fall?
Well, we have to make sure it doesn't fall and hit anything. I'm going to have to hold it while we press it here. Hold on, we got to get it lined up. Okay, I'm going to come over here and hold it while you gently crank it. Ooh, wow. Keep going. It's just started to move. It's just every time it's just popping a little bit at a time. It should get a little easier as the distributor gear, that brass gear, comes off the top. It's probably a little easier now, I think. We got a little ways to go still, though. Yeah, see, now it's coming easier.
No noise!
There it goes. That is why I had to hold it, because it would just fall otherwise. And set this on the bench. Get all these parts pressed off. And we'll probably end up replacing both these gears no matter what crankshaft we end up with. Here is the other main bearing on the other end. It looks pretty good. All of the bearings on this thing looked good, except for the number one rod bearing. And I don't think it actually spun. These bearings, there's a little tab that locks into these holes right here. So it keeps the bearings from spinning. And then the inside of the bearing rides on these polished journals, and there's oil that's being pumped out of these holes under pressure. So the number 1 and 2 cylinder side of these engines tend to not get as much oil. So yeah, I just measured this, and these journals all look really good, and they measure in spec, except for this one that has all the bearing material built up on it. It's kind of a shame, because then we could have reused this. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this will be a good core, and then we can exchange it for one that's reground. All right, we've got a cylinder head here, one of them. These are the push rod tubes. The push rods are inside of these, and we'll replace these with new ones. So right in there, there's a broken spring, and it's actually really easy to press on this valve. I can actually press it pretty easy with just one thumb and get it to move. Let's see, I do have a little magnet pick. There's little keepers in here, just right here. I got to take those keepers out while I press on this. This is my metal scribe. Got a magnet on one end. Hold it like this and try to get those little things loose when I press on it. There you go. Got one of them. Quickly, the other one. Okay. Ooh, wow. Need a spring compressor. I won't be able to do that on the other ones. All right, so here's the top retainer.
Ooh.
Where'd those little clips go? You gotta keep track of those.
Oh, yeah, you're right. This.
Oh yeah, look at that. Broken spring.
Ooh, I want it.
Completely broke. Ooh, that's sharp. Careful.
Find it.
Huh. We'll definitely put all new springs on this if we do end up rebuilding this head. I don't know what type of tolerance they're supposed to be, how much wiggle in these valve guides. I'm gonna have to look that up when we inspect everything. Overall, I would say the valve looks good though. This is the spot right here. It's a little rusty, but this is the spot where the valve has to seal. There's no eaten away spots on it. All right, guys, so we got 2 of these valves out. I don't have a spring compressor though, which I don't know why, because over the years I've taken valve springs out, but I don't do it all the time. But I definitely need to get one. So
Then how did you do it?
just like we did here, and it's always been kind of a hassle. So I really need to get one. We'll definitely have to get one if we end up rebuilding this head and putting it back together. Overall, I would say the valves look pretty good though. I don't know about the tolerances on the valve guides. I'm gonna have to check that out, but they seem pretty snug to me. And You know, this engine was a rebuilt engine, so I'm sure that all of these were at one point replaced or reground or something like that. So we'll go ahead and we'll disassemble all of these, and then we'll kind of show you everything when it's disassembled. All right, guys, so we got a little bit better at it. We ended up using 2 clamps and 1 socket, and we got those.
And it only took like a couple seconds.
Yeah, we did. We got the hang of it on the last couple springs.
Yeah.
But, so we got all the valve springs out and the valves out, and then we noticed that the little raised boss, I'll give you a better picture of it here. Right in here, the raised boss is broken, right where the valve guide gets pressed in, and it was on the one that has the broken spring. All right, guys, so this is the valve guide that I was talking about, that basically the boss around the valve guide is broken and missing. You can see the boss right here that should be here. The funny thing is, it was nowhere to be found, and I'm pretty sure when you put these springs in, that this little piece couldn't have gotten out. But this is the one that had the snapped spring right here. So I'm thinking maybe whoever rebuilt this engine rebuilt it this way, and then when the spring was in here, something happened and made the spring break. I'm not sure. Either that or that piece got stuck in here and broke the spring, and then it somehow ground up into little pieces and came out. Not really sure. So that's the one head, and then the other head is right here. The same position on the other head is cracked. Right in here you can see a crack. So I don't know why. That's weird to me, but that basically means that these heads are junk. All right, guys, so before I move on to something else, I just wanted to give a quick summary on the overall condition of this engine and just what our plans are moving forward. Unfortunately, there's not a lot usable on this engine. You know, the biggest component that is probably the most expensive is this engine case. The engine case has been bored 40 thousandths over, and you know, some people will bore them 60, some people will bore them 80. The only local shop that I've been able to find that specializes in air-cooled engines, they will only bore them 40 thousandths over, so they won't bore this engine case. It's been hammered pretty good. It definitely needs a line bore. It's probably reusable with a line bore, but I'm not sure who I could get to line bore it. And then just kind of moving on to the rest of the components. You know, our cylinder heads, you know, I showed them, they're cracked. Both of them have cracked bosses on the valve stems. Technically, they're aluminum. They're fairly weldable. I can do the welding. I can't do the machining because they would need machined afterwards. So not really worth rebuilding those because of the cost of machining. The next component that is, you know, probably the next like expensive component would be the crankshaft. Crankshaft, it is a regrind. It's 10 thou under, and it's probably would have been usable except that it did seize on one of the rod bearings. Probably usable for another regrind, 20 thou under, so you know, can use as a usable core. The camshaft, it measures okay, and the lobes look in pretty good shape actually. So it's probably usable. It is 10 thou under, but the cam gear definitely shows like pitting on the gear faces. So the gear itself should be replaced. You know, those are the most expensive components. The cylinders, obviously, 3 of them were probably usable. The one, you know, was total garbage from rust. So you typically replace all those anyways. So at this point, I don't really have much to work with here. So due to just the cost of basically building a whole brand new engine with all new components, we're just going to shift our focus to something else. Don't really have the budget right now to build this engine. So we're going to go and shift our focus to working on the body and the pan of the Bug and start cutting all the rust out and, you know, putting new metal in. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.